Race 1 here in Misano gets underway. It's a good start from Ruben Renaldi. He's out-jumped Scott Redding. Redding tries to recover on the inside line into turn 1. A momentary wobble for Toprak Razgatlioglu. Renaldi goes round him now, dives up the inside of Jonathan Ray into turn 2. And the Italian rider tries to hit the front. Ray gets the elbows out, moves Renaldi out of the way, and Razgatlioglu bumps his way past Jonathan Ray. We got the top 3 in the championship in the top 4 positions. And Ruben Renaldi, the home representative, acting as something of a wild card there as he sprung a surprise on Jonathan Ray. And now he goes incisively through on Toprak Razgatlioglu. Renaldi keen to lead this one from the front, buffeting and boring his way through. Razgatlioglu now under pressure. Scott Redding forces his way past up the inside. It's a Ducati 1-2 with Jonathan Ray now third, Razgatlioglu fourth. Brilliant racing on this opening lap. Redding holds firm against the pressure of Jonathan Ray. Ray now responds down the inside as they come through the right-hander. Absolutely outstanding from all 4 of our lead quartet. Alex Lowe's has got the best view in the house. He sits in 5th position. Then it's Tom Sykes who's beginning to drop the likes of Luca Mayas. Ray then is through on Scott Redding for 2nd position. But while these two have been fighting it out, Ruben Renaldi has said thank you very much and built a very handy buffer indeed.
Yeah, well, that's why Jonathan Ray was so keen to make that move on the run into Tremonto. He wanted to try and make sure that he could pick off some riders where possible, because he saw Renaldi on that opening lap trying to make a jump straight away, and Renaldi very aggressive on the run through turn 5 to hit the front, but he's done what he had to do from the second row of the grid.
Redding at this stage looks to be holding back the riders behind him. Razgatlioglu certainly fancies a charge at the start of lap number 2. It's Ruben Renaldi who leads us by 0.6 of a second, half a second then the gap to Scott Redding in 3rd. Then Toprak, Lowe's, Sykes, Mayas, Bautista all within a second of the man who currently sits in 3rd. And there's a bit of a bottleneck here behind Scott Redding. Razgatlioglu just starting to come under some pressure now from the recovering Alex Lowe's. Tom Sykes fending off the challenge of Luca Mayas, who's been much more stable in the early stages than we saw from him from 7th on the grid last time out in Estoril.
Yeah, Chaz Davis doing a good job to pick off a few riders there. He's up into 8th spot now. You'd expect him to make pretty quick progress on Mayas, maybe down in towards turn 8 he'll be able to get through. Redding looking over his shoulder, knows he's vulnerable as we head into turn 8. Davies almost going up the back of Mayas there, has got plenty more speed than the Frenchman as they go through Quercia, and Davies has to hold firm for the moment at least in that 8th place. Alvaro Bautista trying to go with him. Michael van der Mark has also picked up spots off the line. He started P13, he's now in P10, running a little bit wide there. One of the Yamahas further back down the order, but up at the front it's Renaldi leading us and looking fairly comfortable, albeit with a tiger on his tail in the shape of Jonathan Ray. Chaz Davies now then through on Luca Mayas, although he runs wide. Mayas responds as combative as ever from the Frenchman on the number 44, and look at how that gap's come down at the front of the field. Lap 2 of 21. Jonathan Ray is certainly getting on with things here. Watching the duel for top spot, and Redding and Razgatlioglu still going at it. Redding tries to respond. Toprak, though, manages to be deeper on the brakes going into turn 8, and Razgatlioglu is through for 3rd position. Yeah, Toprak's going to have it pretty tough as well to try and take on that fight with Scott Redding. You can see there for Redding, he's going to try and take that wider line. Focus on the exit. This is the most important corner on the racetrack. The exit at Tremonto takes you onto that long back straight. You need to exit well, use the slipstream, and see if you're able to get close enough. Probably too far back right now. Toprak doing a good job of opening up a bit of a gap now to Redding. Toprak's been mighty through this 3rd sector in this race so far. Once again onto the green paint and just a little bit wide. This is the move from Toprak go down in towards turn 5, just able to hold that tighter line, and leaves no real option there for Scott Redding. Razgatlioglu was able to hold on to that position, but we did see him run out onto the green paint once again, so Toprak already clocking up those track limit warnings. Oh, what a moment that was. He saved it, but he's in the grass. Jonathan Ray coming off turn 2. He'll rejoin the circuit. Definitely has been overtaken by Toprak Razgatlioglu. He's going to try and get his momentum back up and running before Scott Redding gets on terms. It's a rare mistake from Jonathan Ray. He's under pressure. Ruben Renaldi kicking on with a new personal best lap of the race, and we're going to see it here from Ray. Yeah, Ray does really well there just to somehow manage to keep his weight where it needs to be and able to collect himself. Doesn't lose too much time in that. Lost about 4 seconds in that instant, but could have been an awful lot worse. Ray, of course, in 2019 rolled his bike in the Superpole race and was still able to recover to score points. So this one's very much a much lesser incident for him compared to back then. But for Jonathan Ray, he can just calm himself down, see what kind of points he's able to get, see how hard he can push in the second half of this race. Chaz Davies
Davies in the gravel trap from inside the top 10 positions. He has gone down. I think that might be at turn 5, and problems through the right-handers for Chaz Davies, who's going to drop out of the points-paying positions.
Yeah, disappointment there for Davis, and he unfortunately had a crash earlier in the season in Aragon as well. It was through turn 4, entry of 5. He could well have had it just where he runs up a little bit wide onto the curb on an angle and then loses the front, but that's going to be disappointing for Chaz because he's not really felt too bad this weekend. It's just been really close and he hasn't quite been able to get the results that he would have expected, but that's going to be disappointing for the Go 11 rider.
Yes, non-scoring race for Chaz Davies. Remember, race 2 in Aragon, scored very nicely with a 2nd position last time out in Estoril, but that gives another position to Garrett Gerloff, who has now got through on Tito Rabat and is therefore promoted up into 14th.
I have to say, a very impressive ride from both Bautista and Bassani as well. Obviously for Alvaro Bautista, it's been a tough weekend, tough start to the season for him. Honda struggled with their electronics. They've struggled to really make that bike feel like what Bautista needs it to feel like. But once they get into a race conditions, he always manages that tyre really well. He always gets faster as the race goes on. And for Bautista, he's doing exactly what he has to do. A new personal best last time around.
Haslam slides down the inside in towards turn 8 and gets the move done on Kota Nazane. It's only 12th position for Leon Haslam, and as you say, that really underscores and emphasises the strong work being done by Alvaro Bautista as Nazane catches Haslam by surprise and recovers down the inside through the right-handers. Haslam was going for the wider line, the traditional racing line, and Nazane rather picks his pocket, so Haslam's got to do the work all over again. They'll flash now through turn 11 and through the right-handers at the end of the lap, and Haslam clearly being held back by Kota Nazane, the Japanese rider, getting his moment in live pictures, and he's certainly capitalising on it by showing a cool head there once he was picked off by Haslam, scything his way back through quite nicely. Must have been a mistake from Tom Sykes to lose 2 positions in one go. Bautista perhaps forcing the move on Sykes and creating room for Bassani as well. Bassani has been following directly behind Bautista, and the 3 of them were covered by less than half a second. We flash back now to Garrett Gerloff, who has moved through in straightforward fashion on Kota Nazane and Leon Haslam. Haslam now will try and recover on Nazane. These two have been fighting it out for 5 laps or so over the minor places. Not exactly what Haslam would have had in mind when he made the decision to move back onto Honda machinery. Nazane then defending that position for all he's worth, and certainly providing a little bit of entertainment further back through the field, these two.
Yeah, you can see there for Haslam just not able to get that bike stopped on the run down in towards turn 8, and that's what opens the door for Nazane to attack once again. The exact same as what happened a few laps ago.
Garrett Gerloff then clear into 12th position. He's not going to be able to get to Luca Maius, I don't think. 5 seconds up the road. Michael van der Mark, you'll have seen getting in front of the number 44, and Michael van der Mark clear now into 10th position. So back into the top 10, having lost the top 10 space earlier in the race. But far from inspiring for Michael van der Mark, and a frustrating lap. I think Kurs, the commentator, replies again. I just said let's give some credit to Tom Sykes for successfully defending 6th, and immediately we cut away. He dropped those 2 places down into 8th.
Yeah, unfortunate for Tom, but still able to have good pace all the way through this race and comfortably ahead of his teammate and the other BMWs, so not a bad performance from Sykes, all things considered, and unfortunate for him, but Bautista and Bassani clearly had faster bikes underneath them. They just couldn't quite put themselves in a position to make the moves for a few laps. We'll wait and see exactly what happened first. Just looking further down the field now with a bit of clear air in front of him, Garrett Gerloff just set his new personal best lap of the race, so it shows that he's been able to manage that tyre really well through the course of today.
Well, it's up to Gerloff then to do a great job from the back of the grid in the Superpole race tomorrow morning to give himself at least a sniff of podium places in race 2, because we're seeing that he's got the pace over the duration of race number 1, and he's at the moment just as fast as the men in the podium places. Renaldi, Razgatlioglu and Ray, and the celebrations are already beginning for Michael Ruben Renaldi.
Yeah, celebrating that last sector, and why not? It's a home race for him, and it's the first time we've had fans back here in World SBK.
First time we've had fans in the stands. 5,000 of them here in Misano will cheer home the Italian rider riding for the Italian Ducati factory. Michael Ruben Renaldi takes his first race victory since the Teruel round of 2020, and his best ever result here in Misano, his previous best of 5th, and for the first time at his home round, he makes it up onto the podium, and he does it in style. It's top spot for the number 21. We've had the same top 5 in each of the opening 2 races this weekend. Will it be a 3rd in a row? Michael Ruben Renaldi looking to take the hat-trick from pole position. Gets underway. It's a good start from Tom Sykes as well. Further back down the order from the third row. Alex Lowe's tucking into 5th position. Early on, no changes in that lead quintet. Charging for the outside line, one of the Yamaha runners, that's Garrett Gerloff trying to make progress. Through, remember, from 8th on the grid after his effort in the Super Pole race, recovering earlier on. Razgatlioglu immediately diving through, but from way back, and it's from too far back, and Jonathan Ray comes from 3rd to 1st. Toprak move Rinaldi out of the way, so desperate to hit the front that he's created space for the reigning world champion, and Ray slides on through to lead on lap 1 of race 2. Rinaldi now will be back through into Quercia, turn 8, and Razgatlioglu again trailing the leg as he comes down the inside of that turn. So Razgatlioglu a little bit wayward, a little bit too aggressive perhaps on lap number 1. It's created the space and the time for Ray to lead us. Redding also looking hot on lap number 1. He's got Lowe's for company. Sykes and Bautista also within a second. Garrett Gerloff is up there in 8th place. Locatelli and Mayas round out your top 10 at present. Bassani again falling dramatically off the line. Disappointment for Bassani after doing such a great job in the Super Pole session to get up onto the 2nd row of the grid. He's down in 11th, but it's Jonathan Ray who leads the way, and now we've got a race on our hand. Here comes Rinaldi in towards turn 8, and Michael Ruben Renaldi sweeps across the path of Jonathan Ray. That's a wee bit naughty from the Italian. He's got it stopped in time. Ray tries to respond. He won't be shy of showing him his front wheel if he gets an opportunity to do so. Razgatlioglu again looking out of shape, looking perhaps a little bit too determined in the opening laps of 21. Remember, it's a long race still to come, but they're desperate to get in front of Rinaldi because they know that if he sees clear air, he'll have the opportunity to escape away, just as he did in the closing stages of race 1.
Yeah, that's what he's going to try and...
Rinaldi's wide. Jonathan Ray will come through to capture the lead. Rinaldi relegated back down to 2nd position. It only takes the slightest of mistakes when you're pursued by someone as good as Jonathan Ray. Rinaldi's been making his moves into turn 8. Ray tries to move across him through turn 7 to try and box him in, but still Rinaldi keeps on firing through, and it's Michael Ruben Renaldi who's back in front. Jonathan Ray trying to respond on the exit of turn 8, but no opportunity into turn 9, and Rinaldi's got to keep it on the black stuff this time around to stay out in front. That compounds a miserable weekend for Leon Haslam as Toprak Razgatlioglu makes his move now on Jonathan Ray. And if these two aren't careful, they're going to allow Michael Ruben Renaldi to escape away. Ray responds to the outside of 9. Razgatlioglu it is who's made the pass successfully. Redding is looking to pick up the pieces. He's been 4th in each of the 2 races so far this weekend. He's 4th again here. Rinaldi breaking clear. Toprak through on Ray. The two of them dancing for position here. It's podium places up for grabs. Chaz Davies pulling up with a mechanical problem on the circuit, so bad news for Chaz Davies, for whom it's going to be a clean sweep of retirements in Misano. I said he's had misfortune around this venue in the past, and it's more bad luck for Chaz Davies after his crash earlier on today. Just over 13 laps to go. Razgatlioglu bundles past around the slowest corner on the circuit, turn 14, and we have a new race leader. Toprak hasn't won a race in 2021. He's determined to do so here in Misano. Bautista's looking vulnerable at the moment to Bassani. Bautista defending to the inside line there as they come through Quercia turn 8. The leaders, meanwhile, are stretching on over the far side of the circuit up towards turn 11. But Bautista, less than a bike length clear of Bassani. Looks like it could be another giant killing mission here from Axel Bassani, the Italian, chasing down the former world number 2. The number 19 Honda looks vulnerable here. Bassani ducks out from behind Bautista, side by side between the two of them. And the youngest man on the grid, on the number 47, comes through for a fine 7th position. Bautista relegated backwards. He's now down to 8th.
You can see there for Garrett Gerloff, he's been able to make his move on Alex Lowe's. That's through turn 3. And certainly Gerloff, just with more tyre underneath him at this stage, he's done really well to bridge that gap. It had been 2.5, 3 seconds at one stage.
So Garrett Gerloff through on Alex Lowe's for P5. Razgatlioglu, Renaldi and Ray is your podium trio. That really doesn't look likely to change on this penultimate lap. It was just inevitability that Garrett Gerloff would get through on Alex Lowe's. The rate at which he'd close, 6 or 7 tenths. We're going to see it here.
Yeah, you're just going to see he's just got more drive all the way through there, gets the bike down the inside.
Well, and he's got enough in hand that he can afford to be careful. He can afford to ride well and truly within those curves.
Yeah, and certainly for Toprak, 2.5 in hand over Renaldi. He's been so good all the way through this race. It has been really impressive from Razgatlioglu. And Renaldi, really impressive all the way through the weekend to be able to come away with 2 wins in the opening 2 races and what looks like a nice safe 20 points for second in this one. It really does give him something to build on for the rest of this season.
I'm sure Renaldi would have loved to come away with 3 consecutive victories, but I expect that if you'd said to him before the weekend started he was going to walk away with 2 wins and a second, and he was going to narrow the gap in the championship terms, I think he would have bitten your arm off.
Yeah, for sure. I think on the basis of what we saw in the opening couple of rounds, it would have been a very different story for him. And Renaldi's been able to push himself up to potentially inside the top 5 in the World Championship after this round. And that's what you need to do as the second rider in the factory Ducati team. Win races when opportunities present themselves, get some podiums, and just do a good job of taking points off the team's rivals. And that's what this man, Jonathan Rea, is.
And as long as there are no changes in the closing stages here, no surprises, it will be Razgatlioglu who cuts the championship deficit to just 20 points. Well, if you thought it was Jonathan Rea versus Scott Redding, think again. Toprak Razgatlioglu claims his first race victory of 2021 and narrows the championship deficit to Jonathan Rea to just 20 points, beating the championship leader 3 consecutive times this weekend in Misano. Michael Ruben Renaldi denied a memorable hat-trick. He can only manage second in race 2. Jonathan Rea is third. Faces of consternation in KRT from Perariba and the rest of his team. Nothing better was available to the number 1 than 3 third positions this weekend, but the consolation for Rea to some extent, 3 fourth places for Scott Redding here, and that is the first time in Scott Redding's career that he's walked away from a Superbike round without finishing inside the top 3, and that's disappointment for Scott Redding. Garrett Gerloff coming through on Alex Lowe snatches 5th, and some consolation for a tough weekend. Lowe's down the order in the end. Axel Bassani with another great result in 7th, really proving that he's got some consistency behind that pace this weekend. Alvaro Bautista, Andrea Locatelli and Michael van der Mark round out your top 10.